Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. My name is Petree. I'm a columnist for the Sports during the Augusta Free Press, and I'm backing in with my co-host, my tag team partner, the Arn Anderson and my Tully Blanchard, JDO. How's it going, brother?
Going all right, man. A little tired on this late night edition of the show, but excited to talk about WrestleMania Night One.
It is April 19th, 11:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We just finished watching night one of WrestleMania 41. Um, Jordan raced home. We watched the show together in my living room to record this podcast. Um, Jordan, this was underwhelming to say the least. And I say that because WrestleMania's 38, 39, and 40 were all fairly good WrestleManias. And it felt like this generation, the regime in charge, had finally gotten the formula for WrestleMania down. We go into tonight, and there were some good matches on the show. From the outset, looked like good matches. Looked like a strong night. And it was a little disappointing. Fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, this was as far as WrestleManias that I've seen personally, and there's obviously been some over the last few years that I haven't seen because I had kind of gotten out watching wrestling for a little bit. This was one of the probably most disappointing and underwhelming WrestleManias I've seen in quite a while. And not to say that there weren't good things that happened. There was the main event was great. I love that. The women's title match was also great. Charlotte and Tiffany, I thought they did really well. And then the LA Knight Jacob Fatu match was good. Wasn't great, but it was good. And then everything else just was so underwhelming. Just nothing really spectacular. I mean, I don't want to go through every single thing right off the top, but the one thing I will say is the crowd was just horrible. I mean, it was just dead. And I don't know if it was the acoustics in the arena because it was so big, but just watching the show, like people would come out and it just sounded like it sounded like a library. I mean, you had when Jay came out, people were doing the whole yeet chant when he came out, and a few other people got good reactions. But for the most part, man, it just looked like a crowd that didn't know anything about wrestling and were just there because it was an event, like the Super Bowl. And that was something that I know I mentioned on the last episode I was a little bit afraid of being in Las Vegas, the ticket prices being so exorbitant that they were pushing out people who were actual wrestling fans who could afford them. And it really showed. I mean, the crowd was dead. It was not impressive at all. And yeah, it was a really underwhelming show.
Yeah, to your point, the show emanated from the Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada, home of the Las Vegas Raiders. A little over 61,000 people attended this. They called it a sellout. Um, it looked full. The crowd looked great. It was well lit. I guess Allegiant is an indoor stadium. But all that aside, like you said, it was a very apathetic crowd. And to your point, there were moments when it sounded great. When Jey Uso came out, it sounded great. So I understand the devil's advocate point is maybe that the sound wasn't great, the acoustics, but at times you could hear them, and a lot of times you couldn't. And I think that was just because, like you said, they didn't have a great deal of interest in this show. There wasn't a lot of excitement, and that's not all their fault. I think to our point, the show just wasn't that exciting. I agree with you. The Tiffany Stratton Charlotte Flair match was great. The main event was great. I liked most of the Chad Gable and Ray Phoenix match. I liked that tag match, but they didn't care about it. Jacob Fatu versus LA Knight was pretty good. And like you said, I don't want to get into all of it. We'll get into things with more granular detail, but let's start with the opening contest. Gunter defending his World Heavyweight Championship against main event Jey Uso. A match that we've talked about at length now for months since Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble. And really before then, when we reviewed Saturday night's main event, we talked about that match and how it seemed like this was as good as Jay's going to get. And we were right because this match wasn't great. Jordan, what were your thoughts?
This match was everything. that I thought it was going to be in a bad way. And I just want to say, I'm not gonna, crap all over Jey Uso. He's popular. He's a top merch seller. Oh, we've said it. Everybody else who's covered this stuff has said it about how popular Jey Uso is, and that's what you want in a superstar. If you have the crowd behind you, if you have that attention, you're going to get pushed, and that's why he's getting pushed. But man, it's just he is just not good in the ring, man. Like it was just the match was not good. There was no energy to it. You know the if you can make Gunter look like he doesn't know what he's doing, then you're not very good in the ring. And this is what this was. And the ending of this match was one of the worst endings I've seen. To have Jey Uso, who has really no submission ability at all, has never shown that in his arsenal. He's always been the high flyers, a million super kicks, all of that. But for him to choke out Gunter, who is supposed to be this, force, this tremendous wrestler, this guy who's just, chopping the hell out of people and choking him out, and for Jey Uso to choke him out in, like, what was it, 10 seconds? Like
Less.
as soon as he put him in the chokehold, he tapped out. I mean, just so underwhelming. It was ridiculous. Like we've both made it abundantly clear we wanted Gunther to retain, and we both were pretty clear that we didn't think it was going to happen. So this result doesn't shock me, but the way that they just made Gunther look so weak, so pathetic, I don't. How do you recover from that? Where do you go from here if you're Gunther? Back-to-back WrestleManias, your long title reign has been ended. At least when he lost the Intercontinental title, it was to Sami Zayn, who had, he has credibility. But I mean, Jey Uso chokes you out. Like Gunther cheated and he still lost. So, I mean, you pretty much just buried Gunther in the middle of the ring right there. So I don't know where he goes from here. Jey Uso's reign, I can't imagine it's going to be that much better than his IC title reign, which wasn't good. It lasted like what, 30 days.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we'll see how it goes from here. But man, it was such a disappointing way to start the show, and it led to how everything else went later on.
Yeah. For most of the contest, it was fairly back and forth. Gunter got hit Jay with a belt shot while Jay was doing a tope suicida. Took advantage of that. Took an advantage in the match, and ultimately proved not to really accumulate too much because in the end, Jey Uso, like you said, choked him out. Rear naked chokehold. Uh, it looked bad. It didn't look clean. And like you said, Jey Uso not really known for his submission game. And on top of that, there is no more emphatic victory in professional wrestling than choking someone out. There isn't. There's no more emphatic way to punctuate a match than to choke someone out. And
Yeah.
that's what Jay did. He got a very decisive victory. And for Gunter, who's been champion now, I was searching this while you were talking. 259 days he's been champion. For his reign to end like that, clean, in that clear of a way, is tough. It's going to be tough for him to recover from that. Now, I want to go back to something you were talking about, and I think this is really the talking point here: is that Jey Uso is just not that good in the ring. Just not that compelling. He has catchphrases, he has quips, he has moments where he's good on the mic, but by and large, I don't think he's a great talker. But the people love him. I don't know if it's kids. I don't know what it is. I don't know what subset of the fans gravitate. Obviously, it's a large part of it, but I don't know what about him resonates with people so much. Where he's a top merch seller, where the kids are dressing like him, and where Triple H has decided this guy is just undeniable. What what has led us here? What qualities does he possess that have made him this popular and resonate this much with the fans that other people don't have, that LA Knight doesn't have, that Braun Breaker doesn't have? It's hard for me to understand. And this is the unique thing about wrestling. I think Jeff Hardy had the same. That's why they called him the charismatic enigma. You just wonder why some people get so popular with the fans. And Jay's in that category for us, obviously. It's hard for us to get past the fact that he's not great in the ring. But here he is. A world champion, which but I want to go there, Jordan. Jey Uso, a phenomenal tag team wrestler. I would say that the Usos are the greatest tag team within the WWE in WWE history. That's my opinion. I'll throw that out there. I think the Usos are the best in-house WWE tag team of all time. And now he's a world champion. Bill Simmons was in the crowd. We talked about that a lot tonight. The kind of way Bill Simmons has these conversations. I'm
Yeah.
gonna I'm gonna take a page out of his book. Where does this put Jey Uso all time? I mean, is he a top 50 WWE superstar of all time now?
Oh gosh. I mean, right off the bat, without doing any kind of research into it and really thinking about it, no, I can't imagine it. I mean, he's like you said, he's one of the best tag team wrestlers in the company's history, maybe the best. And but yeah, I mean, as far as a singles competitor, he's got one title, one reign. Now he has this one he just won, but his first one lasted a month. Who knows how long this one will last? Uh, I can't imagine him, being the champion for a long period of time. Now, to to go back to something you said about why he's able to do this, it's because the WWE does not put an emphasis on the actual in-ring work. They just don't. AEW is about wrestling. They wrestle in the ring. Sometimes they do a little too much, but they try to put on these crazy matches. WWE, especially over the last few years, has never put an emphasis on the in-ring wrestling. It's always been about the story, the character, the cinema of it. And the bloodline was all encompassing for so long. Jay was a major part of that, and that's really where he rose to prominence. And then he got the yeet thing over, and the crowd just they love cheering, they love doing the chant, they love doing the yeet when he comes out. I mean, that's really all you need in WWE. That's really all they focus on.
Yeah,
So
but LA Knight has those same things. That's my point. It's not that the WWE chose him, it's the fans chose him. And so now the WWE has to ride that momentum. But did LA Knight not have the same aura, the same shtick as he did a year and a half ago, 2 years ago?
yeah, but he's not Samoan, and he wasn't involved in the bloodline, and that, I mean, for a long time that was all the fans really cared about. If we're
Yeah.
being honest, I mean, you look at, like, I know you and I were talking about it while we were watching the show. LA Knight, like you said, he's got a one word chant that he got over with the crowd. He's been popular with the crowd the whole time. He's pretty good in the ring. He's really good on the microphone, but they just don't believe in him. And for whatever reason, they don't. And they obviously believe in Jey Uso, and they believe really the entire Samoan clan they have there. I mean, hell, Jacob Fatu won the United States title from LA Knight tonight.
Yeah.
And Jacob Fatu's only been he's not even been in the company, what, he hasn't even been a year, I don't think.
10 months. I think Monday will be 10 months to the day.
Yeah, yeah, 10 months, and he's the United States champion now. So I don't know what it is, why they have so much belief in Jey Uso. Um, but they do, and they're pushing them as far as they can go, and we'll see how far they can ride this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what it is, but yeah, it just, to me, it's always been, WWE has always been about the story and about the drama and about the character, and the wrestling in ring work. If it's not great, it doesn't really matter because they don't put an emphasis on it, and the crowds are just kind of used to it at this point.
Yeah. Well, it, without, I mean, we have no inclination of where this of Gunter's story is going. So I don't really want to postulate what that might look like. I just know that it's going to take him time to rehabilitate his character and who he is and reestablish himself as a truly dominant force. Um, and same with Jay. We don't know where Jay's title reign is going to take him. We don't know what's next for him. It's really totally up in the air. So I
Yeah,
don't really want to unless you have any theories. I don't want to spend any time theorizing what it might look like, but
Yeah. I mean, I'm willing and hopeful I can be proven wrong and that Jay goes on a great run
mhm.
and it's entertaining and all that. And I hope it is. And for Gunter, if this loss leads to him eventually challenging for the WWE Championship, possibly, then maybe it won't be so bad down the line. But right now, immediately in the aftermath, I just don't see it. And I'm not a booker, I'm not an expert on it. I'm just a guy who watches the wrestling. I watches a lot of wrestling, and I see it, and I don't understand it. I don't really understand what the goal is, what the end game is here. So we'll see how things go. But it definitely, in the moment, was not fun to watch.
um, well, moving on to the second match of the night was a tag team match. Jey Uso's former rivals, the New Day, challenging the War Raiders for the World Tag Team Championships that are on Monday Night Raw. Um, Last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago now, when we previewed WrestleMania 41, we talked about how the New Day were, at the time an omission for the show, and you didn't care quite as much as I did about, that I thought they really deserved a spot on the show, and they were rewarded with it, and it was in a match against the War Raiders. And I got to say, this was a really entertaining match. Like, in terms of the in-ring work itself, I think I would argue maybe it was the best match on the show, but the crowd just didn't care. They were not into it. And I don't know if maybe they were spent after Jey Uso got out. I don't know. I mean, that's ridiculous to say out loud, but uh there was no reaction to this match. Um Hard to parse that. I mean, I think your point stands is that the in-ring work doesn't totally matter in the WWE, but I mean, professional wrestling is the name of the game. I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, this match um, was not done any favors. You have the New Day who had this, to me, monumental heel turn that was done extremely well, and it was followed up on with absolutely nothing. Uh, they had a few weeks of people hating the New Day, telling them they were jerks, they treated Big E badly, kicking him out of the locker room, family members turning their back on him, the whole nine. It was entertaining. And then after that, nothing. No one, it was done. No one cared. They didn't capitalize on it. And then you have the War Raiders who have been repackaged multiple times. They weren't really that big when they were, their previous iteration. This one even less so. They won the World Tag Team Championships. They've really not been on the shows from what I remember. Um, Nothing interesting anyway. And then all of a sudden they get this match with the New Day, and it wasn't built on. It wasn't really promoted that much. Uh, it was just kind of put together, and you combine that with the fact that this crowd wasn't great and didn't care. The New Day got a little bit of a reaction because people know who they are,
Mhm.
but the War Raiders, I mean, when when the War Raiders came out, I have seen libraries that have had more energy than that crowd did when the War Raiders come. I mean, I don't think I heard anybody cheer at all. Like it was sad, man. And these guys are the tag team champions. One of the sets of world tag team champions. And they came out there and like you said, it was a good match. It really was, but nobody cared. And the New Day won and they got booed, but and really it probably is better the New Day have the tag team titles because maybe they can actually give them some visibility.
Mhm.
But yeah, this was just it was a throwaway tag team match. They didn't promote it. They didn't do these guys any favors. And again, I think it goes all the way back to booking. The world Gunther's world title reign was not booked well at all, uh, and that's not his fault. Excuse me, that was not any fault of his. And then same in this match. The New Day and the War Raiders they weren't booked well. and it showed. And the crowd responded with "We don't care." So that's really what you got with this.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to that tag match at the Royal Rumble between Motor City Machine Guns and DIY. 2 out of 3 falls. Great match, but no one cared.
Yeah,
It just did. They didn't care.
yeah,
And it's unfortunate, but that's what you get when you don't put any kind of effort into your tag team division.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I also forgot to mention that also too WWE has absolutely no interest in tag team wrestling whatsoever, like at all, in
yeah,
any form.
and it's sad because they have a great stable of tag teams right now, and I've said this for a long time, and for a brief time they were. I think it's high time we unify these titles and have one tag team champion across both brands because they don't have to wrestle every week. They already don't as it is. So what does it matter? And you just have the whole tag team division pool on both brands competing openly and freely. And I think you would get better results because right now it's struggling on both brands, on SmackDown and on Raw, and not for a lack of talent. Like I said, this match was great because all 4 men in the match are incredibly talented and have a lot of skill and unique abilities that they brought to this. Um, the New Day won the titles, defeated the War Raiders, which, listen, even if they weren't supposed to, after that reaction that the War Raiders got, or the lack thereof, they should have lost them because clearly something's not right. And I'm not saying that's their fault necessarily, but, sometimes a change is necessary. And yeah, so the New Day won. They're now 12-time WWE World Tag Team Champions. Um, I just threw my answer out there. I think the Usos are the best tag team in WWE history. Um, just within the company. Where did the New Day? I'm not asking you for a fixed number, but where do they rank? I mean, give me a rough estimate because their accomplishments speak for themselves. At one point, they were the longest reigning champions in history. They're now 12-time champions. They've been a 3-man team. They've been a 2-man team. I mean, how do you rank them?
I mean, if you look, I mean, you look at as far as like the modern tag teams. I mean, they're probably the either the best or second best as far as the more modern ones. Just as far as they've been a tandem for so long. They're obviously a group. Now they're a two-man team, but they've been a two-man team before, like you said. And yeah, I think if the Usos are number one, they probably got to be number two. Um, and I mean, if you brought in all of the tag teams from history, I mean, they'd obviously drop a little bit, but they'd still be probably, I would imagine, top 10, probably top 8 maybe. Um, and yeah, I think they've been really good, and I think they'll be great tag team champions. I think it's good for the division that they have the titles, and hopefully they can do something with them. But yeah, just with the War Raiders, they've never really gotten over with the crowd. They maybe once or twice they have, but overall they haven't. There's a reason they've been repackaged a few times, and I think it was time for that to end. And now we'll see where the New Day go with the tag team titles. I think you're on mute, man.
There we go.
Sorry, man. It's late.
It's late, man. Well, usually it notifies me if I'm muted. But anyways, third match. Moving on. The women's grudge match between Jade Cargill and Naomi. Um, I don't really want to reiterate what this match was about. Naomi attacked Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill came back after being thrown through a windshield and wanted revenge. And that's I don't really want to get into anything else other than that. This match
Great
was
recap.
yeah. I don't care. I don't care. This match was not good. And that's is that unfair?
I mean, a little bit. I mean, I thought there were some cool moments in the match. I mean, for me, I was a little skeptical because Jade's just never been great in the ring. But honestly, this match wasn't bad. It was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It wasn't great. It wasn't a classic, any of that stuff. But it was good. I thought it was. there weren't really any noticeable botches, which is definitely an improvement for Jade.
Sure.
Um, and I think for me, if I'm the WWE, that's kind of what I was hoping for,
Yeah.
was get through the match, get a clean match, and it doesn't have to be a 5-star classic, but just have a good match, have some cool moments. Jade showed off her strength in a couple areas, and she got the win. And when she won, the crowd reacted, which for this crowd tonight is a big win if you can get them to cheer for something you did. So I thought this was good.
Um, Fair enough. Fair enough. I that's respectable. It was, I guess this was better than I expected it would be. But I still didn't think it was. I mean, like on a 5-star scale, I don't know if I'd give it 2.5. But it wasn't terrible. And
Yeah,
Jade Cargill always able to perform incredible feats of strength. She's definitely always impressive in that regard. Naomi took a lot of bumps in this match, which good on her,
yeah,
really selling her ass off for Jade Cargill. I was impressed by that.
yeah,
Um, but I tell you what, for this to be have been a match in WrestleMania is, I mean, we've talked about this ad nauseum at this point, I guess. And I last night I did a live stream, or I guess, the power of movie magic. I guess Friday night after SmackDown, I did a live stream on YouTube and I talked about how um Jade needed to prove herself and demonstrate that she was the investment was worth this opportunity, because having a grudge match on WrestleMania, unfortunately for women, is very rare. And
yeah.
I think she did enough to prove that. I don't know if this really belonged on this as opposed to a women's intercontinental or a United States Championship match, but anyways,
Yeah. For them, uh, obviously the spot they were put in was not that great because, yeah, like you said, they have two mid-card women's championships that are not being defended on either night.
mhm,
You have one of them in a tag team title match, and then the other one's not even on the show. So the spot that they were put in was not great. I understand the significance as far as two women in a non-title match on WrestleMania is a big thing, and in two black women being on the show is also very significant. And I'm happy for them that they get that moment. There's been a lot of work put into this storyline,
mhm.
so you wanted to have a blow off, and they did. And for me, what I wanted to see from Jay was improvement because it seemed like when she went from AEW to WWE, she got worse. And maybe that's just me. I don't know, but you watched her and it didn't look great. And in this match tonight, it looked pretty good. It looked like everything went great. And there, like I said, there were no noticeable botches or anything like that. So the spot they were put in was not great, was not enviable, but I think they did well with what they were given.
That's a pretty hard take to deny. I think you hit a lot of great points there, my friend. Yeah, I think to your point, I'll agree with you on that. It was a success. And I want to make this very clear. Women's matches should not always be title matches. I'm
Yeah.
very critical of AEW for that exact reason. We need more feuds in women's wrestling that are featured in huge spots that have nothing to do with titles, just stories, just feuds, just rivalries, just personalities.
Mhm.
And in that regard, I commend them for this and for everything you just said. Uh, Moving on to the next match for the United States Championship, the men's United States Championship. LA Knight defending his title against Jacob Fatu. Unfortunately, like we said earlier, it was not a successful defense. The megastar, one of our favorite wrestlers, uh, yeah, he lost. I was gonna say he got beaten up, but he didn't
Yeah.
really get beaten up. It was a very close match, but
Yeah.
Jacob Fatu, undeniable.
Yeah.
Certainly on this night was undeniable. Um, looking beyond our love of LA Knight, because we could go there and say, oh, this is a travesty for the megastar. How impressive was this performance from Jacob Fatu?
Um, it was definitely impressive. Jacob Fatu has been impressive since the moment he stepped into WWE. Instant impact, and that has not changed. To the point where even the crowds have been getting behind him and have been, cheering him and loving everything he does. Absolutely destroying people. And yeah, this to me, this was not shocking. Obviously Jacob Fatu had all the momentum behind him, and him being the United States champion now is it's not a bad thing. Uh, he's obviously a big star, and the WWE obviously has big plans for him. So I think this is good for him. Um, and yeah, just I mean, like 10 months in, and Jacob Fatu has already done so much, and he's now a champion. So, we'll see how this reign goes. I think there is the potential to have some great matches, some great title defenses, and hopefully we can have a little bit more consistency with the United States title because for a long time the U.S. title was seen as kind of the second most important title before they introduced the World Heavyweight Championship back into the fold. And then it's kind of lost its luster. Logan Paul really hurt the credibility of the title. Um, and then you kind of had it bounce back between LA Knight, Shinsuke, LA Knight again, short title reigns, non-inspiring title reigns. And now you have a monster like Jacob Fatu holding it. And I think he's in for a long title reign. And hopefully he can bring a little bit of credibility back to the U.S. title.
I think the most shocking part of all of this for me was that Solo Sikoa accompanied Jacob Fatu to the ring like a cheerleader. This is the man who formerly called himself the Tribal Chief,
Yeah,
and now he is playing second to, literally playing second to Solo Sikoa.
yeah,
Solo Sikoa has not won a singles men's title on the main roster yet. Uh, Jacob Fatu has beat him to the punch, and
yeah.
in the hierarchy of the Bloodline 2.0 is currently sitting on top with a comfortable lead over Solo. To me, like you said, not only has he only been here for 10 months, not only has he really been on his own for 3 months now, he's already the United States Championship, which is a title that, as of the last few years, has definitely regained an amount of prestige, to your point. And while Logan Paul was a downturn for the title, LA Knight has done a great job of making it important once again. And Jacob Fatu now has that pressure on his shoulders. And I don't think it's going to be difficult for him to make that title matter. Um, dude, some of the stuff he does, but I know he does it all the time. The springboard Vader moonsaults, I mean, the pop up Samoan drops, the super kicks. He's a freak, man. He is a Frankenstein's monster of a wrestler. It's so fun to watch him work. And while LA Knight's a good worker, he's not. He's up there in age, and physically he's limited in what he can do. There are some guys in the WWE who I would love to see him wrestle. I think Carmelo Hayes. I think of an Andrade, guys who he could really just go to the wall with and have a great match. Ray Phoenix, Penta, they're guys who he could really kill it with. So I'm excited to see what this looks like.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a lot of potential with this upcoming title reign for Jacob Fatu, and in the case of LA Knight, obviously, you know, I believe he held the title for about 40 days, 42 days. Um, another uninspiring title reign for him. Uh, and it's unfortunate because, like we said, LA Knight, we were both pretty big fans of his. He's got, the promo skills. He's got, the catchphrase. He's basically got everything Jey Uso does.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know where he goes from here. It, it's hard to say because it just doesn't seem like the company has any belief in him. which is again unfortunate. And I don't know if that's because of they just don't know what to do with him, or if it's because he's got some heat backstage. I don't know. Um, time will tell. But he is up there in age. He's not going to be around forever. And I think the crowds are still behind him, man. Like they haven't left him. And if you have that the crowd with you behind you, you need to capitalize on it. And like he did with Jey Uso. So for LA Knight, I don't know what that encompasses. If he goes after the world title with Jey, the Yeet versus the Yeah, something like that. I don't know, but they need to do something with him because you have so much talent, and you can't just keep throwing the same guys in that position. You've got to throw some new guys in there, and LA Knight is the perfect candidate to do that, and I hope he does that. And we'll see how things turn out.
The next match, Chad Gable versus who is we expected it to be Chad Gable versus Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio was unfortunately injured Friday night on SmackDown during the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. And in his place, he was replaced with Ray Phoenix, who is just arrived in WWE over the last few weeks. A former AEW standout, a former AEW International Champion. Phoenix, also a former AEW Tag Team Champion, TNA Tag Team Champion, AAA Tag Team Champion. Ray Phoenix has been successful uh, the world over and is a phenomenal worker in the ring. And he got only weeks after debuting a taste of the show of shows to compete against Chad Gable in this match. Chad Gable operating under the El Grande Americano gimmick, um, which the pomp and circumstance, the vignette that aired before this match felt like it went on and on forever. It was so long, drawn out, ridiculous, over the top, disrespectful, insensitive, all the above and more. We dreaded it. The match itself, unsurprisingly, was great. Something you'd expect of Chad Gable and Ray Phoenix, but the result not so much. Jordan, I want you to unload on this, man. Let the people know how you feel.
Yeah, this was one of the worst things I've ever seen. And we've been basically burying this show up to this point, and I'm hoping that this will be a lot better going forward. But this was horrible. I mean, for one, you have a tremendous wrestler like Chad Gable, a guy who, when he was wrestling Gunther for the Intercontinental title, had so much momentum, had shown you so much ability and so much promise. And for them to squash all of that, and he has slowly just gone on this downturn to where now he is wrestling under a mask as a a white luchador, which is just absolutely ridiculous. To like a great wrestler like this, and this is what you do with him. And this isn't even the worst gimmick he's had because they before they were calling him Shorty G, and I didn't think it could get worse than that. And this is pretty high up there. I mean, you not only you have that, but you have a guy like Ray Phoenix who's just come into your company, and you're trying to build him up, and you give him a match at WrestleMania, and you have a legitimate luchador get beat by a fake luchador who has never wrestled, in from what I can understand, he's not wrestled in Mexico or anything like that. Uh, doesn't know anything about lucha libre wrestling, and you have that guy beat a legitimate luchador who just debuted with your company, who you are trying to build up, on the same day that you acquire AAA, a legitimate Mexican wrestling company. So you basically have just told the world we're going to bury Mexican wrestling by having a fake white luchador called El Grande de Americano, who they were billing from the Gulf of America, beating a legitimate, accomplished luchador like Ray Phoenix. So congratulations, Triple H, on absolutely crapping all over Lucha Libre wrestling. Uh, while you're standing out there accepting your Hall of Fame induction that you gave to yourself. Uh, that was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. Like, I would have rather watched the NBA playoff games than watch that freaking match. Like, you could have just had Chad Gable versus Rey Mysterio, Rey Phoenix, whoever. You could have just had that, but no, you had to make it a stupid gimmick about a white guy dressing up in like a luchador, wearing a mask, and yeah, it was ridiculous. I hated it. I don't care if the match was good or not. I didn't think there was going to be anything on this show that I hated as much or more than Logan Paul in any form, but this is pretty high up there. It was ridiculous, and it was just compounded by the fact that you had this whole big announcement about you guys acquiring AAA, and that's what you do. And then you have Vikingo go out there and I don't. He kicked Chad Gable before the match. Then he went in there and he picked up Ray Phoenix in the middle of the ring, and that was really it. So you just completely buried Ray Phoenix right from the jump. And yeah, I don't. This was stupid. It was completely ridiculous, and I feel bad for Ray Phoenix. I feel bad for Chad Gable, and yeah, screw Triple H.
Well said. That was hilarious. I loved it. Jordan, I want to ask you a question. It's
Okay.
2019. 2019, you're in a coma.
Oh god.
You wake up, it's 2025. And I asked you, can you imagine one day that Chad Gable is going to wrestle Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania? I'm sorry, Shorty G is going to wrestle Rey Mysterio in WrestleMania, and he's going to wear a mask and pretend to be a luchador. You'd have said that tracks because the WWE is a clown car show right now, and it's not getting any better.
No, I would have said like at that point, I'm surprised Chad Gable's still in wrestling after being absolutely buried with that Shorty G crap.
And then you think a year and a half ago, or a little bit less, when he wrestled Gunter, and you'd say, Jordan, imagine next year at WrestleMania, Chad Gable's going to wrestle Rey Mysterio with a mask on and pretend to be a luchador who people have forgotten about. And you just said, Ray, that's crazy. Chad Gable's over as hell right now. His gimmick is great. Why would he do that? Why would he do that to himself?
No, I would have said I'm not surprised because WWE has a long history of taking things that are great and absolutely destroying them and throwing them down to the bottom of the ladder. So it wouldn't have surprised me at all for them to completely bungle that.
To be clear, El Grande Americano put a metal plate under his mask and delivered a diving headbutt on a Ray Phoenix to win this.
Yeah,
Which,
which is also crazy given the history of that.
yeah, I mean, just
Just take everything bad you could possibly have about this match and just throw in there the fact that they use a diving headbutt, which I'm not going to tell everybody why that's bad. If you follow wrestling, you know why that's not a good look.
uh, um, yeah. Anyway, so I don't want to add it. Jordan nailed that. I don't want to. Let's move on.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
let's move
Please
on.
let's move on.
The next match, yeah, I don't know. I don't. The next match, the winner of the Royal Rumble, Charlotte Flair, the Women's Royal Rumble, Charlotte Flair challenged Tiffany Stratton for the Women's Championship, the WWE Women's Championship. Um, I fumbled that. Anyways, yeah, Tiffany Stratton defended her title against Charlotte Flair successfully. Match was 19 minutes. Easily at this point was the longest match of the night.
Yeah,
And I really enjoyed this match a lot. I thought it was really competitive, and I think they told some stories selling some body parts, and obviously Charlotte Flair's surgically repaired knee was, at the center of this. 5-star scale, Jordan. What would you rate this match?
um, I mean, hell, for this show, I mean, it's probably a 5 star compared to some of the other crap we saw up to this point. But no, I don't know, probably I don't know, three and a half, 3 3/4 maybe.
Was this as
Um,
good as Athena versus Mercedes on Dynamite?
no, it wasn't as good as that, but it was I don't know, maybe like a step below that. It was good. It was a great match. Finally could talk about something good that happened on this show. Um, it was a highly anticipated match given the interesting talking points that have gone into this. Some of the segments that they've had between Tiffany and Charlotte have gotten personal. Whether that's a shooter at work, we don't know. But it was good. It was hard hitting, a lot harder hitting than I thought it was going to be. But by the end of it, I mean, it looked like Tiffany might have lost a tooth or might have busted a lip or something. She was obviously bleeding from her mouth. Um, and yeah, they were both selling pretty well. Charlotte selling her knee, Tiffany also selling her knee. Uh, and yeah, some great spots in this. Charlotte's obviously, pro's pro in the women's division. Tiffany is obviously extremely talented, up and comer. And this was good. And the end result was what I think was the best one, with Tiffany retaining the title. And then, you know, for her to get a win over Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania is obviously big. And we saw what that did for Rhea Ripley when she won um, and beat Charlotte at WrestleMania 39.
Mhm.
I mean, you see where Rhea is at now. Tiffany, while not at that level of popularity, is she's pretty popular. I mean, she's close. I think she's this definitely helps her. It definitely gives her, you know, uh, a notch on her belt as far as people she's beaten, people she's competed against, and now on the biggest stage defending her title. So it was a great match. It was my favorite match of the night up until this point.
Yeah. This was there. It felt like there was a lot of animus between both women. Um, like they really harbored a lot of resentment towards each other for that incendiary promo they had a few weeks ago on SmackDown. Um,
Lightly.
but I tell you what, these two went out there and delivered. Um, told a story, sold some body parts. Like I said, a 19-minute match is no joke. Um, especially when it's physical as this. And Charlotte Flair, yeah, I will continue to say this until she retires. She's the gold standard of in-ring excellence in American women's wrestling. She is as good as they get in any company. And that's coming from a huge supporter of AEW, someone who, puts food on the table writing about AEW, who loves the product in a lot of ways and loves the roster. Charlotte Flair is as good as they come. And Tiffany Stratton matched her blow for blow in this match. Looked great. Looked better than she ever has before, I think. And I was really impressed with this. I don't, I don't. Maybe it's a 4-star match. I don't know. Maybe it was. I don't know if it was great, but it was really good. Um, and I hope these two continue to feud, not necessarily going forward, but in future. I hope these two lock up again one day. Um, unfortunately for Charlotte, it's just not her time. People don't want to see her win that title again right now. Maybe that might change. I don't know. But right now was not the time. Tiffany needed to keep this title. Um, I think if you had taken it off of her, you really would have lost some of the fans there. I think you would have gotten pure mutiny from that, and I don't think they would have made her title reign or Charlotte's title reign if she'd won easy for her. So moving on
Yeah.
to the main event of the evening, the triple threat match between CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins. Um, we've been very vocal about our disinterest in the build to this, how unnatural and strange it all feels, how manufactured is the perfect word for it. It just feels manufactured.
Yeah.
It just feels like they didn't know exactly what to do with these three guys, so they said, "We'll just put you guys all together in a triple threat." And in many ways, these are two of the biggest names in the company, and Seth Rollins. So I understand the appeal there. But at the center of this was Paul Heyman, who intended to enter this match beside Roman Reigns and was forced to accompany CM Punk, a la the favor that CM Punk was owed by Roman and Paul Heyman. So CM Punk made this a personal matter. He thought he could get the psychological advantage in this match if he had Paul Heyman in his corner. In the end, he thought that advantage would turn into a physical one, and Paul Heyman handed him a chair to strike Roman Reigns with it. Punk took the chair. Heyman gets in the ring. Low blows Punk. Roman Reigns picks up the chair, believes that Heyman has betrayed Punk, and decides to side with him. Reigns laid it in on CM Punk, just beat the hell out of him with that steel chair,
Yep.
and then turned his sights on the Seth. And what happened, Jordan?
Well, we had what you and I were predicting would happen, we're hoping would happen, and wouldn't you know, it happened. Paul Heyman low blows Roman Reigns and aligns himself with the architect, Seth freaking Rollins. The shocking moment for the crowd there, who I don't even know if they knew who Paul Heyman was, but the guy low blowed the other guy and handed the chair to Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins hit Roman Reigns with the steel chair, harkening back to the time when he hit him with the chair and broke up the Shield. Um, Obviously, a callback to that, and then uh, he pinned him 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring, and the winner of this match was Seth freaking Rollins. And you and I had talked about this where Seth really needed a win. He had not had one of this magnitude in quite a while. He had been on the receiving end of Punk beating him, uh, and him losing the title last year at Mania to Damian Priest, or excuse me, to Drew McIntyre, then Damian Priest. And it felt like Seth really needed a win. Seth has been, one of the main guys in this company for a while. And, he's really been kind of been the only guy really telling the truth, really, you know, saying the quiet part out loud. Whereas Roman Reigns is still a jerk. He's not changed. He is still the same person. He's not apologized for anything he did before. And CM Punk, he left the company, walked out of the company, badmouthed the company for years, went to the opposition, and then came back and is, put back into the main event picture. And, Seth Rollins doesn't believe that's right. And in conventional circumstances, it really wouldn't be. There would be, you can understand why someone would legitimately not be happy about CM Punk coming back into the company. And you can understand why somebody would not be happy with Roman Reigns being treated with adulation when he terrorized the company all that time as the champion and the tribal chief with the bloodline. So it's the funny part that Seth is kind of the bad guy in this when he's really been doing and saying all the things that you would think would make him a good guy. So um, it was a needed win for Seth Rollins, and it was you know shocking to everybody. I guess not really shocking to us. You can kind of see it coming, but it was good. I'm very interested to see how this dynamic of Seth and Paul Heyman works. Um, you know, Seth obviously is a guy who he can talk. He doesn't really need a mouthpiece,
Mhm.
but having Paul Heyman in your corner is not a bad thing either. Maybe this leads to Seth being back as a champion down the line. So I'm interested to see where it goes.
I I think, yeah, you hit the nail on the head, man. You can understand Seth's motivations, and for some reason, he's still the one who's been the least the least revered of the three throughout this feud. If people love CM Punk, they love Roman Reigns. They haven't loved Seth Rollins quite as much. And in a lot of ways, he's felt like the villain in this situation because he's not afraid to say the, like you said, the quiet part out loud. And now he has Paul Heyman in his corner. Now, I want to something real quick. I want to touch on Michael Cole screaming Bloody Mary freaking out, losing it over Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman, cursing their name, saying how terrible they are, how despicable they are, how they've sold their souls to each other, how they've done the devil's deed. I'm sorry, but I think CM Punk took that steel chair to attack Roman in front of the ref. Triple threat match, no disqualification, but nonetheless, cheating's cheating. They were all willing to do underhanded things to win this match. Why? Just Paul Heyman betraying Roman or CM Punk. Why is that terrible? Why is that evil? He was getting his ass beat by Paul Heyman, and Roman didn't come out. And when Punk came out, Punk didn't save him. He left him for dead. Seth didn't hurt him though. In a lot of ways, I just don't understand. I still don't understand the logic here, the psychology. That what did Seth Rollins do that was bad? What did Paul Heyman do that was wrong? What's terrible about their decision? I don't really understand that. In a sense, I mean, I get like simple wrestling booking says they're heels now, but it's gonna be hard to tell me that I'm gonna boo these guys because I'm excited to see what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't make any sense to me either why Michael Cole was treating this like Paul Heyman had just, you know, kicked a puppy in the middle of the ring. I
Yeah,
mean, it was, like CM Punk and Roman Reigns have done, terrible things to people over the course of their careers. They're not saints. Seth isn't either. And, throughout Paul Heyman's career, he's done this. I mean, how many times has he betrayed people? He's betrayed multiple people. This is not surprising. And yeah, you look at, going back in the history of this a little bit, Paul Heyman with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns beat up Paul Heyman before. Like people kind of forget that. Roman Reigns beat him up before. And, you know, Paul Heyman aligned himself back with him eventually. But yeah, like Paul Heyman's going to go with the guy who he feels is going to be, on top. He's going to, go for the winner. And in this case, he went with Seth. And yeah, I don't understand why Seth's the bad guy, why Paul Heyman's the bad guy. Punk, like you said, was really just using Paul Heyman as a psychological advantage over Roman because he's taking away his wise man. And in Roman's case, he was mad that his wise man was getting taken away by Punk, and he was mad that he had made this favor with Punk. So, Paul Heyman's not being treated well by either of these guys, and why would you want to deal with that? Why wouldn't you align yourself with Seth? So yeah, Michael Cole, I don't understand that. It made no sense. They didn't do anything dastardly. Yeah, like you said, Punk was ready to use the chair. Roman did use the chair, and then Seth used the chair. So it didn't make sense. I don't get why they're doing that. Um, and if I don't know if Mike Cole just did that on the fly or if that was intentional. I don't know. Either way, it was stupid. And yeah, I'm excited to see Seth with Paul Heyman. I think Seth has been, he's been the workhorse for a long time, and I think it's about time he's getting rewarded for it. So hopefully that's what this leads to. But yeah, this was a great match, best match of the night. Um, through everything, Punk got his main event finally. Roman, it appears, is going to be going on a new chapter in his career with the Bloodline officially over. Um, and Seth going into a new chapter of his with Paul Heyman at his side. So we'll see.
yeah. I mean, Seth is really great at reinventing himself. Like really great. He's had multiple incarnations and iterations in his career that have really been fascinating. And I don't know if we're gonna get a repackage of Seth Rollins, but if we do, I'm excited to see what it looks like. If not, I'm excited to see what happens. I do think that Michael Cole's reaction was I do think it was intentional. I think they're trying to make him Seth Rollins the next big heel in the company, whether that's to go after Jey Uso or to go after Cody Rhodes or whatever might happen. But I do feel like they're trying to position him as the next top heel. And having Paul Heyman by your side is a great way to do that. I just wonder how long this relationship will last and how fast it takes Paul Heyman to find the next guy, maybe a Braun Breaker. We'll have to see. Time will tell. But I'm excited to see where this goes, and for that reason alone, I think this was successful. And as a match, I'd give this 4 stars. I think this was a great match. I think the action was great, the sequences were awesome. There was a lot of storytelling in the match that folds in layers of things that have happened in the past. For all those reasons, this match really landed with me, resonated. Um, Tomorrow night, well, it's April 20th already, so I guess really late. After WrestleMania night 2, I will go live on YouTube, and I'll discuss night 1, night 2, the news today of the acquisition of AAA in more detail. But I think this was a good launching point for us. Um, Night 1, Jordan, how would you grade this?
I would grade it. I'll say C minus. I thought if I'm going, or I guess if I'm going on a star scale, I don't know, maybe that I guess like a 3, maybe a 2 3/4. It wasn't outside of the United States title match and the last 2 matches. It wasn't great for all the reasons we said. I'm not going to reiterate them. But yeah, I'm hoping tomorrow night is better. There is the potential for it to be because there's some good matches. Um, so we'll see. But yeah, this first night was not impressive.
Yeah, I'd give this 2.25. I was not impressed. Quite frankly, this is kind of underwhelming. Um, I disliked more of it than I liked. So there you go. But
Yeah,
like I said, tomorrow on YouTube, I'll be live streaming after the show. We'll talk all things WrestleMania 41, Hall of Fame, the acquisition of AAA, what things might look like going forward. I think it's going to be great. I really look forward to having a conversation with you guys in an interactive way, answering your questions. It's going to be a lot of fun. So look forward to that. But thank you guys. Please like the video, comment, let us know what you thought about WrestleMania Night 1, and subscribe to the channel. Jordan, thank you for staying up with me, brother. This was a lot of fun. Talk to him, man.
top dogs out.